This is a bit of a different video to what I would normally do. I don't really have a script or anything, and I really just want to tell you a story after seeing what's unfolding in America with these immigration raids and the mass detainments and deportations and the protests and how the American right is responding to that. For those of you that don't know, I was a federal agent for about a decade with the Australian Federal Police. For those of you not in Australia, that's somewhat comparable, I guess, to the FBI. And I want to tell you about the very first person I actually ever arrested. I had just started and I was based at Sydney International Airport, and I was called to the customs primary line because a male was attempting to leave the country on a fake passport. I thought, you beaut, no innocent person possibly have any reason to use a fake passport to flee the country. So I went there, arrested a young man, and brought him back to the station to interview him. This was a male who was about the same age as I was, almost exactly the same age, and he was an incredibly polite young man, and he was nervous and I was nervous because it was my first ever police interview. And of course I asked him the obvious question: why do you have a fake passport? And he told me his story. This man had come from a very poor country. I won't tell you which one it is. And his family had pulled together enough money to get him a ticket to get to Australia. And when he got here, he applied for asylum, and that asylum application was rejected. So he disappeared. He fled into the community, and he worked in a fruit shop for the most part, cash in hand, a ghost. He never claimed any benefits. He never had any interaction with law enforcement whatsoever, but he managed to scrape together enough money to send back to his family every week. And it meant a lot for his family that he was able to do that. So of course I asked him, after all these years, why flee now? Why risk everything? And it's when he told me that he found out about 2 weeks earlier that his father was dying, and that his father only had he found out his father had a couple of weeks to live. The context here, which is important. At that time, my father was dying. And about 10 days after that situation, my father died. My father died in my arms with my mum and my sister. And that was, I guess, my privilege. The man that I arrested would be detained and spend the next year in immigration detention. He did not get to see his father again. Now, I'm not some liberal utopian. I know that we have to have borders. And I know that we have to control our borders, and we just can't let everyone in. I get that. And I understand that it's so complex, and that the situation is slightly different there. I get that, and I understand that we can't help everyone. What I don't understand is the joy. I don't understand how people get pleasure from this. That sheer exuberance that I'm seeing from people, from ripping people off the streets, tearing families apart, people that have existed in the community for decades, and sending them to a life that they would never tolerate themselves, but they think these other people should be compelled to endure. What right do they have to do that? It's this sense that they believe they're cleansing this hallowed ground of pestilence as though they have some sacred right to it. I had no greater right to be in the country than this man who I arrested. I had no greater right to be with my father when he died. I understand we have laws, and in the end the laws had to be obeyed, but that haunts me. It haunts me today still. And I hope there's some of these people involved that it haunts you too.